Chapter 1: The Journey Begins. In the heart of a town nestled by a winding river, life overflowed with color, sound, and energy. It was a place of true diversity, where cultures and religions blended harmoniously. Each morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, the town came to life. People flooded the streets, bringing their unique customs, languages, and traditions with them. Everywhere Amir looked, he saw a dazzling patchwork of humanity: women in bright saris, men in flowing robes, children laughing and playing, vendors calling out their wares in a mix of dialects. It was a place alive with the sights and sounds of the world. Amir, a young man with eyes full of dreams, worked in his family's modest cafe, located at a busy corner near the river. His family was Muslim, and they'd owned the cafe for generations, known for its warm hospitality and fragrant teas infused with spices. Amir's parents had taught him that the cafe was more than a business; it was a gathering place, a humble yet vital part of the town's identity. Over the years, Amir had come to know people from all walks of life, each with a story and perspective shaped by their beliefs and experiences. Growing up, Amir had friends from many different backgrounds. During Christmas, his Christian neighbors invited him to join their celebration, where they exchanged gifts, lit candles, and shared meals. During Diwali, the Hindu festival of lights, he marveled at the beauty of lanterns and fireworks, symbolizing hope and joy. At Hanukkah, he listened intently as his Jewish friends shared the story of the miracle that kept the menorah burning. He even joined the community for Eid, where his family shared sweets and stories with others in their neighborhood. The memories of these festivals were imprinted in his heart, each tradition adding to the tapestry of his understanding. However, despite his deep love for his town and its vibrant blend of cultures, Amir couldn't ignore the tug of a distant call within him. As much as he enjoyed working in the cafe, meeting travelers, and hearing tales from afar, Amir felt a gnawing sense of incompleteness. In his quiet moments, he'd look out at the river flowing beyond the town and feel a longing, a yearning for something beyond the familiar. It was as if he knew, deep down, that his journey had to stretch further than the borders of his hometown. There was a need to understand more, to see how others lived and loved, and to connect with the world outside. One late afternoon, as he was wiping down tables and preparing to close the cafe, a stranger entered. The man had a gentle smile and carried a small, weathered leather bag. He introduced himself as a traveler, stopping by the town on a journey to explore the country and understand the lives of its people. He shared stories of mountains and valleys Amir had only heard of, describing villages where time seemed to stand still and cities that thrived with modern marvels. Amir listened with rapt attention, his heart pounding with excitement. When the stranger asked if Amir had ever left the town, Amir felt a wave of both pride and hesitation. He loved his home, but hearing about these other places sparked something in him, a call he could no longer ignore. As if fate had decided, that same week, Amir received an invitation. A group of travelers were setting out on a journey to explore the country, with a purpose beyond mere sightseeing. They aimed to connect with people from different backgrounds and gain a deeper understanding of humanity. The letter described the group as one with a shared dream of unity, a belief that by experiencing different cultures and traditions, they could bring people closer together. Amir knew immediately that this was the opportunity he had been waiting for. The very thought of setting out on such a meaningful journey filled him with excitement and a slight trepidation. He knew he had to say yes. When the day arrived for Amir to meet the travelers, he felt an exhilarating sense of anticipation. As he approached the meeting point by the river, he saw them waiting, a small but diverse group of people with warm smiles and kind eyes. They were each distinct in appearance and attire, and Amir felt instantly drawn to them, sensing that they too carried the same dream of connection and understanding. They introduced themselves one by one. First, there was Fatima, a young Muslim woman with a calm, compassionate aura. She carried herself with a sense of quiet strength, and Amir felt a kinship with her immediately. Fatima explained that her faith had inspired her to travel, to reach out with compassion and openness, and to seek a deeper understanding of humanity. She spoke with a soft voice, but with a conviction that left no doubt of her sincerity. She shared how she often felt that people saw only the headscarf she wore, forgetting there was a heart and a mind beneath it, full of dreams and kindness. On this journey, she hoped to find people who saw her for who she truly was. Next was Rosa, a Christian nurse with laughter that filled the air like music. Rosa had spent years working in remote villages and war-torn areas, healing the wounded and comforting those in pain. Her faith, she said, taught her to see all people as her brothers and sisters, no matter their religion or background. Her heart was wide open, and Amir could see the light of kindness in her eyes. Rosa had brought along a small cross on a necklace, a reminder of her faith and of the love she carried for humanity. She explained that while she was devoted to her beliefs, her true mission was to be a bridge between people, healing wounds that went beyond the physical. Then there was Asha, a Hindu dancer whose every movement seemed to be a form of storytelling. She wore colorful clothes, and around her wrist was a bracelet of small, intricately carved beads. Asha explained that her dance was inspired by ancient Hindu tales of gods, heroes, and the triumph of good over evil. For her, dance was a way of sharing her culture's values and its beauty with others. With a smile, she promised the group that she would teach them dances from her tradition, saying, "In our movements, we can find a rhythm that connects us, even if we come from different worlds." Amir was captivated by her grace, sensing that her spirit was as free as the wind. Finally, there was David, a Jewish storyteller with a quick wit and a warm demeanor. David had a way of making everyone feel at ease, his words flowing like a gentle river. He carried a small, worn notebook in which he jotted down tales from his travels. He explained that he believed in the power of stories to bridge divides and to heal old wounds. He had dedicated his life to understanding people's stories, to learn from them and to carry their wisdom with him. His Jewish faith, he said, was a deep part of him, but he believed that wisdom was universal, something to be shared across borders and beliefs. Amir found himself immediately drawn to David's warmth and humor, feeling that this man carried a wisdom that went beyond words. Together, they formed a small group, but one filled with purpose and a sense of unity that transcended their differences. As they set out along the winding road, Amir felt a thrill unlike any he'd known. The journey had only just begun, yet he sensed that it would change him in ways he could not yet understand. He looked at his new companions, each bringing a piece of the world with them, and felt a profound gratitude for this moment. They were embarking on a journey not just across landscapes, but into the heart of humanity, to discover the beauty and depth that lay in every culture, every faith, and every individual they would meet. This journey was more than travel, it was a pilgrimage of the soul, a quest to see past the labels, to embrace the diversity of humanity, and to find the common thread that connected them all. With every step, Amir felt the excitement grow, knowing that he was no longer just a young man in a cafe, but a part of something larger, a movement towards understanding, love, and unity. Chapter 2: Encounters and Lessons. Their journey carried them further from the familiar, into a realm of new landscapes and customs. After days of travel, they arrived at a remote village cradled between towering, mist-shrouded mountains. The village was simple, with wooden houses painted in earthy tones and smoke rising from hearths that warmed each home. Word of their arrival had spread, and by the time they entered the village square, a small crowd had gathered, faces curious yet welcoming. Though the villagers spoke a different dialect, they greeted the travelers with open arms and open hearts. In this village, hospitality was sacred, and visitors were treated as family. Children gathered around, wide-eyed and giggling, tugging at their parents' hands to get closer to the newcomers. The elders stood at a respectful distance, nodding in acknowledgement, while the village leader, a gentle, weathered man named Ion, stepped forward to welcome them with a solemn bow. Through smiles, gestures, and occasional translations, the villagers extended their hospitality to the group, offering food, shelter, and the warmth of their community. As the evening approached, the villagers invited Amir and his companions to join a feast. The long wooden tables were set with an array of local dishes, each one a labor of love, made from ingredients grown in their fields and seasoned with generations of knowledge. There were bowls of thick, hearty stew, platters of roasted vegetables, and baskets overflowing with fresh bread. The smells were intoxicating, a rich blend of spices, herbs, and the earth itself. The travelers marveled at the generosity of these people who had so little yet gave so freely. As they sat together, language barriers began to dissolve, replaced by the universal language of shared experience and laughter. Fatima, inspired by the warmth surrounding her, began to share stories of her home, of her family's Eid celebrations. She spoke of how, during this holiday, they rose early, dressed in new clothes, and attended prayers with their neighbors and loved ones. She described the joy of gathering with family, the plates filled with sweets, the tradition of giving charity to those in need. Her face lit up as she spoke, and her voice was filled with love and pride. Though the villagers had never heard of Eid, they listened attentively, their eyes reflecting a growing appreciation for Fatima's faith and her love for her family. When Fatima finished, Rosa spoke, sharing stories of Christmas in her village. She described the warmth of candlelight, the feeling of peace that filled the air as people came together to celebrate, forgive, and share kindness. She painted a picture of the streets decorated with lights, children singing carols, and families gathering to exchange gifts. She told them how, on Christmas Eve, her family would invite neighbors and friends, regardless of their faith, into their home to share a meal and enjoy each other's company. Rosa's words carried a gentle melody, and the villagers could feel the spirit of her Christmas, the way it transcended religion to touch the soul of humanity. As the night deepened, Asha rose and invited everyone to gather in the open field under the stars. With the villagers and travelers forming a circle around her, she began to dance, her movements flowing like water, graceful and mesmerizing. She danced the stories of her ancestors, tales of gods and goddesses, of love and courage, of compassion and the eternal fight for justice. She moved with a rhythm that seemed to echo the heartbeat of the earth, and as she danced, everyone watched in awe, captivated by the beauty and power of her movements. Though the stories Asha dance belonged to her Hindu heritage, their messages were universal, stirring emotions in everyone present. David, ever the storyteller, joined her with tales from his own tradition, speaking of ancient wisdom, of prophets and scholars, of resilience in the face of adversity. He shared stories of compassion and forgiveness, of finding strength in unity, and of seeing the divine in every human being. David's voice was soothing, filled with a warmth that wrapped around the listeners, bringing comfort and a sense of peace. He explained that while his faith was his own, he believed that the values it taught, kindness, justice, and humility, were threads that bound all people together. As they listened to Asha and David's stories, the villagers felt their hearts opening to these ideas and traditions that had once been foreign to them. They could see that while these people carried different beliefs, their values were the same. They spoke of love, of family, of kindness, of respect for life, all principles the villagers held dear as well. Some of them were hearing about these religions for the first time, and it was not only intriguing but inspiring. They saw how Asha, David, Rosa, and Fatima respected each other, how they listened, learned, and shared without fear or judgment. It softened their hearts, making them question the divisions they'd always assumed were inevitable. As the evening drew to a close, one of the village elders, a tall man with deep lines etched into his face and eyes filled with wisdom, approached Amir. The elder, named Grigor, was an Orthodox Christian who had lived in the village his entire life. Through a translator, he shared his thoughts with Amir, his voice gentle and filled with warmth. "You remind me of my son," Grigor said, his eyes twinkling with kindness. "He left the village to find his own path. I have missed him, but I see in you his same spirit, his curiosity and kindness. You and we may worship differently, but I see your heart, and I know that it is good. Your kindness, your respect for others, these show me that we are not so different. Perhaps we pray in different ways, but our souls are woven from the same threads." Amir was deeply moved by Grigor's words, feeling an intense bond with this man he had just met. He realized that these connections, these moments of understanding, were the essence of his journey. Each encounter brought him closer to understanding the unity that lay beneath humanity's diverse exterior. The days in the village passed quickly, each one filled with learning and connection. Fatima spent hours helping the village women with their work, sharing recipes and laughing together. Rosa joined the village healer, learning about the plants and remedies they used and sharing her own medical knowledge in return. Asha taught the village children some simple dance steps, their laughter ringing out across the fields as they moved in joy. And David, always with his notebook, wrote down the stories the villagers shared, promising to carry them to other lands. When the time came for the travelers to continue their journey, the villagers gathered to bid them farewell. There were tearful hugs, promises to remember each other, and gifts exchanged as tokens of friendship. One villager handed Rosa a small wooden carving of two hands intertwined, a symbol of unity and peace. Fatima was given a woven shawl to keep her warm on the road, a reminder of the family she had found in this village. Asha received a bundle of dried herbs, symbolizing the healing power of her dance, and David was gifted a tiny clay jar to store all the wisdom he carried in his heart. As they left, Amir felt a profound sense of gratitude. This village, so far from his home, had become a part of him, just as he had become a part of it. He understood now that the beauty of humanity lay not in uniformity but in diversity, and that true unity could only be achieved when people saw past the surface to the spirit within. He looked at his companions, each of them changed by the experience, and knew that their journey was just beginning. This chapter of encounters and lessons left a mark on Amir's soul. He had seen firsthand how stories, traditions, and faith could be bridges instead of barriers. In the eyes of the villagers, he had found reflections of his own family, his friends, and his beliefs. He had come to understand that all people, no matter where they came from or what faith they followed, shared a common humanity. Chapter 3: A Test of Unity. The travelers continued on, their journey taking them through breathtaking valleys and dense forests. After days of steady travel, they arrived at a village with a quiet but palpable tension in the air. This was a place divided, where old wounds and misunderstandings had grown into walls of mistrust between groups who had once lived harmoniously. The villagers seemed wary of one another, divided along lines of faith and culture, and their division cast a shadow over the beauty of the place. As the travelers set up camp just outside the village, they sensed the unease in the eyes of those who watched them from a distance. Whispers floated on the wind, murmurs of suspicion about those outsiders. Some villagers feared that Amir, Fatima, Rosa, Asha, and David had come to impose their beliefs, to further deepen the divides in the village. Others merely avoided them, hoping that these strangers would soon pass and leave them to their familiar lives of mistrust. Determined to build bridges, the travelers discussed ways they could begin to ease the tensions. Rosa, a nurse with a compassionate heart, felt drawn to use her skills as a healer to show the villagers that they were not here to harm or change anyone's way of life. She began her work the next morning, setting up a small area where she could tend to the sick and elderly. Her warm smile and gentle hand spoke a language of their own. Slowly, villagers started coming to her, some with small ailments, others with deeper pain. She listened, offered medicine, and treated them with respect and tenderness. Fatima joined Rosa, offering her help in whatever way she could. While Rosa administered medical care, Fatima assisted by speaking softly with the elderly, listening to their stories and sorrows. The two women worked side by side, a powerful image of unity between people of different faiths. Their kindness began to make ripples in the village. People saw that these travelers were not here to disrupt, but to help and understand. As word of their efforts spread, a few more villagers dared to approach, intrigued by these strangers who treated everyone equally, without regard to the divisions that had long kept the village apart. But while some were beginning to accept the presence of the travelers, others remained wary. Tensions were still high, and the village needed more than kindness and medicine to heal the scars left by years of resentment. One day, after observing the villagers' daily routines, Asha proposed an idea. She suggested organizing a dance to celebrate the upcoming harvest, a tradition she knew would resonate with the villagers, who had always taken pride in the fruits of their land. She believed that a communal event, something to remind the villagers of their shared roots, might help to bridge the gap between the divided groups. The other travelers agreed, and soon, preparations for a festival began to take shape. Asha spent days rehearsing a dance inspired by her heritage, one that celebrated the beauty of the harvest and the spirit of gratitude. She invited children and young adults to join her, teaching them simple steps that captured the essence of unity and celebration. Although hesitant at first, the villagers became enchanted by Asha's grace and joy, and soon, they were laughing and moving together, momentarily forgetting the differences that had kept them apart. Meanwhile, David decided to share one of his favorite stories, a tale of friendship that transcended boundaries of faith, culture, and language. He gathered the villagers around a fire one evening, his voice rich and calming as he wove a story about two childhood friends from different villages who, despite the odds, stood by each other through war, famine, and hardship. The story was filled with humor and wisdom, and as David spoke, he saw how the villagers leaned in, captivated. They laughed, gasped, and even shed a few tears as they connected with the message that friendship and trust could overcome the deepest divides. As the festival drew near, Amir knew there was one more way he could help break down the walls that had grown between the villagers. He decided to cook a traditional meal from his own culture, filled with flavors and aromas that spoke of his homeland. He hoped that sharing a meal could bring the villagers together, as food often held the power to bridge even the widest gaps. With the help of a few villagers who were curious about his culinary traditions, Amir prepared a feast, pouring his heart into each dish. The table was filled with a variety of foods, each representing a piece of his culture, and he invited everyone to join in the meal. The villagers, initially hesitant, began to fill their plates, their apprehension melting as they tasted the food and felt the sincerity in Amir's gesture. As they ate, they laughed and shared stories, the walls between them fading with each bite. The air was filled with the aroma of spices, the sound of laughter, and the warmth of newfound understanding. For the first time in years, people who had once avoided one another sat side by side, breaking bread and exchanging smiles. They were no longer divided by old grievances, they were one village, bound by the simple, universal act of sharing a meal. When the night of the harvest festival arrived, the villagers gathered in the center of town, their faces illuminated by the glow of lanterns. There was a palpable energy in the air, a feeling of excitement and unity that had been absent for far too long. The villagers watched as Asha took her place, her movements graceful and fluid as she began her dance. The children she had taught joined in, their feet moving in sync with hers, their faces alight with joy. The music swelled, and as the dance reached its peak, the villagers could feel a powerful sense of connection. It was as if the rhythms of their hearts had aligned, as if they were all part of something greater than themselves. When Asha finished, the crowd erupted into applause, the sound echoing through the village, a testament to the unity that had been rekindled. In the warmth of the festival, David approached the village leader, Ion, who had been watching quietly from the edge of the crowd. Ion's face was softened, his eyes shining with gratitude. "You have shown us that we are not so different," he said to David, his voice filled with emotion. "For years, we have clung to our divisions, fearing that unity would mean losing ourselves. But you, and your friends, have shown us that unity is not about erasing our differences, it is about embracing them, and finding strength in our diversity." Amir, Fatima, Rosa, Asha, and David looked at each other, their hearts full. They had come to this village as strangers, outsiders in a place where mistrust ran deep. But through compassion, respect, and the simple acts of sharing stories, dances, and meals, they had helped to heal a community. As the festival continued late into the night, the villagers danced, laughed, and celebrated together, united once more. They had learned that peace and unity could be built not by erasing differences, but by understanding them. In the end, the travelers saw that their journey had not only brought healing to others but had deepened their own understanding of humanity. They knew their mission was far from over, but this village, once divided, would forever be a testament to the power of connection, compassion, and the courage to let go of fear. The next morning, as the travelers prepared to leave, they were met with heartfelt goodbyes and small tokens of gratitude from the villagers. They knew that this experience, this chapter in their journey, would remain in their hearts forever. And as they walked away from the village, they carried with them the profound lesson that unity is not about sameness, but about honoring the unique beauty in every person, every culture, and every belief. Chapter 4: The Heart of Humanity. As their journey drew to a close, the travelers found themselves standing before a small, ancient temple high in the mountains. Its worn stones bore the weight of countless years, and its walls were adorned with symbols and scriptures from a variety of faiths. For centuries, people of all backgrounds had come here to seek solace, meditate, and find peace. This was a place of unity, where the divisions of the world melted away, and the travelers felt the significance of this sacred space as they stepped inside. They settled in a circle within the temple, each one aware that this moment marked the culmination of everything they had experienced together. Amir, usually quiet and reserved, felt a swell of emotion rise within him. With the weight of their shared journey on his heart, he stood, his voice steady but filled with profound feeling. We have all prayed to different names, spoken in different languages, and followed different customs, he began, looking at each of his companions, but in the end, our hearts beat as one. No matter where we come from or how we choose to pray, we all want the same things: to be seen, to be loved, to belong. There is enough space in this world for all of us, and we are enough, just as we are. His words hung in the air, and each of the travelers felt them resonate deep within. They had traveled far and endured many trials, but they had emerged with something priceless, a sense of unity that transcended boundaries. It was a unity not born from sameness, but from a respect and appreciation for each other's unique ways of life. Fatima spoke next, her voice filled with gentle conviction. I used to think that understanding meant agreeing with someone completely. But I've learned that true understanding is seeing each other fully, even with our differences. We don't need to change one another, we only need to respect and cherish each other as we are. Rosa, whose gentle hands had healed many, nodded thoughtfully. Every time I've treated someone, no matter where they were from, I felt the same bond. Sickness, health, joy, and sorrow, they're all part of the human experience. When we see each other through the eyes of compassion, there are no strangers, only brothers and sisters. Asha, who had shared her stories through the grace of her dance, added softly, "The stories I dance tell of gods and heroes, but they also speak of the resilience, kindness, and courage that live in each of us. We all carry the same light within us, even if we express it differently. It's this light that connects us." David, ever the storyteller, gave a warm smile. Stories are threads that bind us together, no matter where we come from. They remind us of our shared humanity, our dreams, and our love. Our journey has shown me that the human heart can hold many truths without losing itself. And that, he said, looking around the circle, is the most beautiful thing of all. Moved by these words, the group fell silent for a moment, letting the meaning of their journey wash over them. They shared a long embrace, each understanding that the unity they had found was something that could never be broken. They had come to see that the power of unity was not in merging their beliefs or erasing their differences, it was in respecting and honoring each other's identities. They were bound together not by shared beliefs, but by shared humanity. When they returned to their town, they did so with a renewed purpose. They had brought back more than stories, they had brought back a new way of seeing others, a way of welcoming diversity as a source of strength. Inspired by their journey, they organized gatherings in the town square where people from every background could come together to share their culture, traditions, and experiences. These gatherings were a celebration of life's rich diversity and an opportunity for people to listen, learn, and embrace one another with open hearts. With each gathering, the town spirit transformed. It became a place where people spoke freely about their faiths, shared their customs, and appreciated one another's differences. The divisions that had once existed began to fade, replaced by mutual respect and kindness. The town had become a living symbol of unity, a testament to the strength that comes from accepting and valuing diversity. Word of this transformation spread far and wide, reaching other towns and cities that had also struggled with division. Inspired by the story of Amir, Fatima, Rosa, Asha, and David, people across the world began to question the barriers they had built between themselves and others. They saw how this small town had turned diversity into its greatest strength, and they, too, began to create spaces where people of all backgrounds could come together. Amir, Fatima, Rosa, Asha, and David became legends, their story carried across continents and passed down through generations. Their journey was remembered not only for the physical miles they had traveled, but for the emotional and spiritual distance they had covered together. They had shown the world that beyond borders, beliefs, and appearances, we are all bound by the bridges of the heart. Years later, as Amir sat in the cafe he had once thought of leaving, he looked around at the vibrant, diverse faces of his town. The laughter, the music, the mingling of languages, these were the sounds of unity. He felt a deep peace, knowing that he had played a part in this transformation. His dreams of seeing the world had led him to something greater, a vision of humanity united, living in harmony. The story of their journey became a beacon of hope, a reminder that unity is not an abstract ideal, but a lived reality, built in small moments of kindness and understanding. In the end, they had shown that there truly is enough space in the world for all of us, and that we are enough, just as we are. And as the legend of their journey continued to inspire people across the world, it left behind a legacy of love, compassion, and the unshakable belief in the power of the human heart.